Welcome, everyone, to another episode of From the District with State Senator Suzanne Weber. Senator, how are you?
Well, I'm great. I was out digging in the dirt today,
Beautiful.
and it's 64 degrees, which is just about perfect. And I couldn't ask for anything more. Sunshine, not a cloud in the sky.
Well, as we record this, we are officially in October. So I'm sure those days are going to be few and far between for us. So let's enjoy them while we can.
You bet. Let's.
So you unfortunately haven't been able to be outside much. You've been locked in the construction zone that is the Oregon State Capitol the last week. How was your
my
week?
goodness.
You had the legislative days. So legislative days are a number of times per year that the members of the legislature come together. They don't meet in assembly for the most part. They're mostly meeting in committees.
Right.
And the only votes that are usually taking place are in the Senate confirming the governor's appointments, agency appointments.
Yeah, because only the Senate can confirm her appointment. And
Right.
it was, just to say, it was lengthy, and it was successful for all those appointed.
Yes. You voted for some. You didn't vote for others.
That's right.
Which I think is appropriate. The governor being of a different political party and just having different ideas of the direction of the state than you have. But she is the duly elected governor of Oregon, and so is entitled to a cabinet and agency heads that are of her liking, as long as they are competent and reasonable.
Yes, and the governor also extended an invitation to all of the senators and representatives to Mahonia Hall. And so one night she had a reception. I did not attend because I had a prior engagement in Tillamook that I thought I needed to be at. And so I was not there. Many people that I spoke to had an enjoyable evening because they did have a couple minutes of the governor's ear on the issues that they have been the most concerned on.
Right. I will say, again, don't agree with her on much, but when we've had some issues in the office that needed to be addressed by her, she and her staff have been receptive. And whether you agree on policy things, I know that's not common, but when things need to get done, you were very active on the initial fallout from the district transportation. You worked with the governor to get some initial funding just to get the wheels on the bus going round and round again. And now there is some continuous investigations of what happened there, and look forward to seeing those results as well. But certainly it's nice to know that you don't have to go to the governor's mansion for a reception just to get a couple minutes of the governor's ear. You've been able to do that.
No, I have been able to speak with her. And also, which was really nice, she has had several of her staff reach out to me also on different issues. And I have their phone numbers, and they have invited me to call if there's ever anything that I need. So I appreciate that. I didn't have that before.
Right. That we don't believe we had that with Governor Brown. So nice that we have that with Governor Kotek. Because there are many issues that come up that really need the executive's action.
Right.
That's one of the things really that you do is you are a connector. You don't have you don't have the solution. You're not able to solve the problem, but you know who can solve the problem. And
yes,
that's important to have. So legislative
being able to contact agency heads with issues that are happening in my district has been very important.
Right.
It's amazing how things can get done when you go right to the top.
Yes, indeed. So legislative days happened. How were they?
Yes.
You had many meetings.
Well, I went in early Tuesday and spent the day there on Tuesday because of the early literacy educators council prep meeting. We had one last week also, but that was a Zoom meeting. And I also needed to be in my office on Tuesday to make additional phone calls to people in the district, and that worked out really well. Then Wednesday was a day that I took appointments, and it was kind of amazing because there were several people that wanted and needed to talk to me, and I think I had 14 appointments with
Wow.
constituents and lobby and other members of the Senate. And, you know, the meetings are short, sweet, and to the point. People come in there, you're not waltzing around anything. They come in there, they tell you what their concerns are, and you go on. And then Thursday was my committee day. And so I had all of my committees and caucus, because we started with water caucus at 7:30 in the morning. And then we went to Ways and Means for education. And from there on, it was human services and then education. And these meetings, unlike during regular session, are considerably longer. They're 2.5 hours.
Right.
And
There's only one of them.
Only one. Some committees met twice, but the ones that I was a member of only met once, and it was, like I say, for 2.5 hours. And then, we ended the day with caucus so that we could get together as Republican senators and be able to talk through the issues that we felt were important. And we also talked through the appointments and how we felt about going forward with them, because then on Friday we met and it would have been a floor session, but the floor is completely closed off right now. And so we jammed into a hearing room and met there, and we got our work done, and it all worked out. Then I went back to my office, had a few more meetings, and was able to entertain my next door neighbor. She had never been to a senator's office, and her sister-in-law from Wisconsin was visiting, and they wanted to see a Senate office, and so they came from Tillamook to my office. So it was a nice event.
Well, that's excellent. That's excellent, and it's very interesting how everyone is operating with construction still going on. When all of this was being planned, there was a lot of discussion of just picking up the legislature and moving it to like a hotel or a conference, convention center, the convention center or something like that. And it eventually was decided, no, we're just going to work around it and make it happen. And it has been incredibly inconvenient. Mix that in with when COVID was going down. It was it's just been awful.
The other thing is that right now they have cordoned off even more of the hallways, especially near the rotunda. And so, you can't see the rotunda. You don't have a gift shop anymore. And, that's what people wanted to be able to do. If you want a gift, you have to order it online right now. Information and help, the help desk is in one of the hearing rooms. And so everything, you sometimes have to go looking for your meeting that you thought you knew where it was going to be.
Yeah.
And the structures that they're putting into the, because they're starting on the bottom floors. And when you see what they are adding to the structure itself to make it earthquake safe, you wonder just how in the world did they do that? Now they've got scaffolding up around the dome too. And
Mhm.
so they're working up in that area.
Yeah. So for folks who are wondering what's going on, this is not cosmetic. Certainly there are cosmetic things happening, but the structure really has not been particularly earthquake proof. It's an older structure, and um, that is what this is to make the people's house um, structurally sound in case of an emergency, and it is the
Yeah.
people's building. It is an investment, just like I would have if my house needed to be updated and maintained. I'm going to spend the money to do that. The legislature decided to do that for the people's house, and so
Well,
they could have done it a lot faster had they kicked you guys out. But
right.
that was
But
not
they
what was
didn't.
decided.
But it's all reminiscent of, I don't know how many people remember the spring break quake
Oh yeah.
and the damage that did to the Capitol. And that was like a foreshadowing of what could happen if we actually had one of a greater magnitude.
I remember the spring break quake. I was in high school, and um, you know how they always had us like do earthquake drills and make sure you get into your desk, or make sure that you get in
A
a
doorway.
doorway. Um, that all went down the tube for me, and I was upstairs at my desk working on something, working on a project, and I just came running down the stairs screaming earthquake. And when it actually happens, not
Well,
helpful.
it was funny because at that time, we were sitting and having breakfast, and it's one of those moments you never forget. And Tom ran upstairs and told the kids, "Get up, get up, get up, get up! We're having an earthquake!" And we all ran outside and stood in the front of the house. And then Tom looked up and realized that we were standing under a power line, and it was like, we got to think this through a little more clearly.
Yeah. But yes, that did quite a bit of damage, especially in Salem, where that
Right.
was really the southern Willamette Valley was very much the epicenter of that.
Yes.
Um, so yes, so that is all happening. With legislative days. It just really emphasized and kind of made it under a microscope. But legislative
Right.
days is coming on, so
And remember, during the long session, we had
yeah.
issues on the floor with diesel smell. And so we had to have these big air cleaners on the
Right.
floor, and they made a huge amount of noise. And then we had no heat. And so President Wagner bought us all blankets so that we could sit on the floor and be wrapped up and warm. So,
Yeah, I think your legislative career has been it has not been normal.
no,
Being elected in 2020, it has not been normal. But so legislative days have come and gone. For those folks who didn't get a chance to watch those meetings or get your voice heard on any of those issues, you can still watch those meetings. There are recordings on OLIS if you want to go watch that. But there will be another set of legislative days in November, I believe around Thanksgiving. So as we get a little closer to that, we will get everybody a schedule as soon as we have it, because we don't really get it until later.
Right.
But as soon as we get that schedule, we'll make sure everybody gets it. But successful legislative days, interesting for sure. But one thing I want to talk about is something that came out that was particularly interesting because of your involvement in it, and that was the report that came from the study of Highway 6. One of your first bills that you passed when you were in the House required ODOT to do a study of the condition of Highway 6, as well as propose any remedies, as well as their costs. And we got all of that. I would really interested to know what your thoughts are of that report and where we go from here.
Well, I think that I really want to compliment ODOT on the thoroughness that they exercised in putting this report together. They spent a lot of time and resources because, you know, this was, again, one of those things that there wasn't a set amount of money that was associated with it. Instead, ODOT volunteered to work that into their budget. And so, you know, they did a great job on that. There was a lot of involvement by staff, and there was a lot of outreach. And I think that that was very important. Now, when we get right down to the nitty gritty, there's a lot that needs to happen. And that report absolutely points it out. I think the report is like 44 pages long. I think that everyone who travels that highway on a constant basis should read that report, because in the estimates of what it's going to cost to take care of some of these things are high. However, it's because of, you know, we have some priorities that we have named especially, and one of them is that between milepost 31 and 35, where we have the most damage to the highway, that is going to be a very expensive endeavor. And we need to make sure that that highway is going to be safe, because everything that we use here or everything that we produce here leaves or comes in on that highway.
Right.
And so there are a couple of things that are started that are, you know, in the hopper. And one of them is right out here on Wilson River Loop, because, you know, we have had serious accidents there, because we need additional signage and we need another lane for people that are turning off of the highway, so that when the trucks are there, you know, you're not lost in the scheme of things and pull out and are hit by another vehicle. And then there's Highway 8, which I don't know, I had never really thought about a number for that highway, but it's just beyond, it's in Gales Creek, and it goes off towards Forest Grove. And that is also a real pinch point. And so right now, ODOT is going to take care of those two things first, plus the signage and the striping are all going to be taken care of. And you'll notice that the lines have been repainted on the highway. So we're going ahead with that. But we really need to sit down and figure out what we do next and where we're going to get the money for it. Because money is going to be the deciding factor on a lot of what we do. And I know that, you know, we have the report, and now we have people coming forward with other ideas that they want to be included in the report. Right now, the report is complete. We're not going to be adding anything to the report, no matter if people want it there or not, or have suggestions about where the additional turnouts need to be, or related issues. And another thing is, you know, we really called attention in that report to the fact that we don't have cell service or, you know, emergency communication on that 39 miles of road. And we're working with Washington County, and most likely by next year, that will also be a reality, that we will have cell service over the majority of that road. And there, you know, that is what we have to look at, especially for life-saving means. I don't know. Do you think, what have I missed about reporting on that? You can get a copy of it and read it. And I think you'll learn a lot about that highway, especially.
Well, we'll make sure that a copy of that report is included in the newsletter, the next newsletter that you have going out soon, which a lot of people are probably watching this because they saw it in the newsletter. So take a look at it there. So for those things that need to be addressed that have price tags attached to them, and some of them don't because there's just no way to really know
Right.
what it's going to be until you start digging even deeper into them. We're looking at about $250 million,
Yes.
around $250 million, which quite honestly is lower than I was expecting. So, and it really is, it gives phases of things that can be done and where
Right.
you can start. And here's a low hanging fruit for a couple of $1,000,000. You can go get this done. And ODOT seems to be set on getting those things done as soon as they possibly can in their budget.
Yeah.
The rest is going to be probably a knockdown, drag out fight for money to make sure that this stuff can go. And this isn't going to get any cheaper.
No.
So,
And, because of the ODOT's constraints with funding, there may be some things that will not happen as a result of it, because they're facing some serious deficits, especially in maintenance. And so there are some things that may not happen.
well, and that's where you come in, and that's where your colleagues come in to get this fixed, because you guys are the
Yes.
ones who would appropriate money. And so that's one of the things I know you'll be fighting for going forward. But this Highway 6 report really is incredibly thorough. It is quite good. It could be more. I mean, you could just go nuts on these things. You could have a study on the study. And I mean, you could take
Yeah.
some of these issues that don't have any price tags on them and have a study about them. And we could go down, we could do this all day long, and we could study ourselves to death, which unfortunately is like a real popular thing for governments to do. So I think the next step is not to study. The next step now is you have a comprehensive study of
Right.
what the issues are. Now we got to start getting them done.
Right. Right.
Excellent.
And ODOT did a really good job of buoying up some of those areas between milepost 31 and 35 this summer. But when you look at the volume of traffic on that highway, I know yesterday I went over there, went to the valley, and it was just one car after another. They were all coming to the coast because, of course, it was going to be a wonderful weekend. But you can already see that with the repairs that they did, they're already slipping away. You're already starting to get those faults in those areas. So we've got to come up with a solution, especially between those mileposts, to be able to address those issues.
Right.
And unfortunately, people do some really stupid things when they're driving on that highway. And I saw a number of them yesterday because people were not patient enough to realize that it's a short stretch of highway. It's not the rest of their life, and they need to play safe.
Right.
They don't need to be passing at 85 miles an hour,
Right.
and passing 6 cars in a row.
And I know you and I have talked about this. This is one of my worries. I know how important it is for emergency situations to have communication on that highway. My worry is that by adding cell service on that highway, you could inadvertently add to the issue of distracted driving on that highway.
Right.
So that's something we've got to be very conscious of as well, is that we're not adding more accidents that we use the new cell service to report. So I hope people will, as that becomes a reality, that people will make very good decisions about their cell phone use coming back over to the coast.
Right.
So we have coming up, we have legislative days coming up in next month in November. But as I said, we are in October. We are, gosh, Suzanne, we're only about 3 months away from the next legislative session.
Yes. And
it's a short session.
We are very limited. I want to reinforce that with how many bills that we can actually propose. We actually have the ability to propose 2. And when you think about the long session and you think about how many bills there were thousands of bills that came forward. We don't have that opportunity. We have 35 days to get the business done. And what we should be focusing on is budget, fixes to things that we have inadvertently forgotten, and just short-term things that we can actually impact.
So that is what the short session was intended to do. For the longest time in the state's history, the legislature only met in odd years. They met the year after the election, and then they didn't meet again until after the next election. Then we started getting like short special session after special session after special session. And so it was proposed to the people of Oregon in the constitutional amendment that was referred to them that, hey, how about we limit the length of the long session? Because there was no limit. There was no limit. You could go on ad infinitum. Let's limit the length of that. And then let's have a short session that is only 35 days long and during the even years. And it'll only be for budget tweaks, the stuff you mentioned. Unfortunately, legislators have not, some of them have not felt that way. Right. And they just give it an opportunity to have another bite of the apple. And the committees are introducing more bills, and the governor introduces bills. And then you guys, senators, only get 2 bills. House only gets 1. So it's really, man, I know this is what is going to be your focus, is maybe one or two resolutions, or maybe a resolution, a little thing, and then one or two one fix that we've been talking about, and that's going to be it, because that's the intent. That's what the people of Oregon were told the way it was going to be, and that's what we want to honor.
And the thing is that we have a list of things that we are considering going forward with, but we have not as yet made a decision as to what we are going to go forward with for our bills from District 16. Right.
So in a long session, you have the pre-session filing. You can file as many bills as you want. You can file 100 bills. You can file 1,000 bills. As many bills as you can get written and in the hopper by the deadline, you can file. And then you get 5 priority bills during the session that you can introduce while the session is going on up to a certain date. That's just not the case this time. There's just 2 bills. 2 bills.
Right.
No pre-session filing. 2 bills. So if you call the office and say, well, I want a bill, yeah, that's waiting till 25. It's going to have to wait till 2025 when we have more bandwidth, more opportunity, and for a session that is designed to do that.
Yes.
So a lot going on, but that will kick off, I believe, in either late January or early February.
Early February.
Yeah.
Early February.
So early February this time.
35 days.
Yeah.
And we'll have, Alleged Day preliminary in January also to discuss, reports from committees and things that are going forward. Because, like in the Alleged Days, we had reports on things that were passed in the last session as to how they're moving forward. And so we're going to get updates on some of those things that we weighed in on that we thought needed to there needed to be additional work done on them. Mm-hmm. And the committees and the agencies brought forth issues that needed more work too. So we'll hear about that again, and then we'll hear about it again. And then hopefully we will have decided how these things are going to be fixed. Because you alluded to one thing, and not only, we've got two bills, but the committees are able to bring bills forward also. And I have been talking with Senator Dembro about, the possibility of some education bills that we need to bring forward. And we don't have anything right now that is a, lead pipe cinch that we're going to go forward with. But we're talking about a lot of issues.
Right. Well, that was the time to talk, and we'll see what comes forth next session, and then certainly what comes forth in the long session when you'll have an entirely new legislature.
Right.
You'll still be there, but you'll have many new colleagues.
Yes. And the other thing I need to bring forward is, we had an initiative in 110. It's the initiative that has the most discussion around it. The governor has a committee now to look into that, to see what kind of changes could be made to that. There may be legislation coming forward that will relate to that initiative.
Yeah, that'll be, that's probably a conversation that we need to have. Maybe we'll do that next month, or
I think we should.
Or because Measure 110, as probably everyone remembers, decriminalized drug possession in the state of Oregon has led to a lot of problems, and so you have some pretty big name people, Tim Boyle, Phil Knight, Jordan Schnitzer, who are essentially saying, look, we need changes to this or we need to repeal it.
Right.
And I think the writing is on the wall to folks like the governor who want to save Measure 110, but also can read a poll and realize that Oregonians are having some massive buyer's remorse over Measure 110. And if given the chance, would probably repeal it. So the governor has put together a task force to come up with some ideas to alter Measure 110 to fix the issues. So as we see those coming out, I think we should dedicate maybe one of our next
I think that's a really good idea
about that. Yeah, for sure.
Because there will be more information coming, especially from the governor's committee by the next time we meet, which will be in about a month. And I think it's a really good idea to do that.
Excellent. Well, Senator, anything else that you would like to talk about? I think that's all I wanted to touch on.
That's all I wanted to talk about. Also, I really appreciated all the folks that came and talked to me on the Wednesday when I had, constituents and lobby and agencies come and talk to me. I appreciated all that because it gave me some insight into things that we need to start to work on going forward. Right. And issues within the state that are, causing some problems, and agencies need to step up and take care of them. And, no matter what it is, whether it's healthcare or education or farming or forests, some serious work needs to be done in all those areas.
And I would just say now's the time, everybody. If you want to talk to the senator,
yes,
now's the time to do it. As many phone calls as we get during the session, it's just a terrible time because if you get there, should just wall-to-wall meetings, and it's floor and committee and agencies, and those meetings, honestly, they're like 15 minutes long that we can get folks in during the session. But if you've got concerns now that don't have to do with a bill during session. Of course, if you've got concerns about bills during session, by all means, let's talk about them. But if there's stuff that you want to talk about that isn't session related, that isn't have to be done during session, boy, now's the time to do it. So that we can get you on the calendar to have maybe a longer, in-depth phone call or Zoom meeting with Senator Weber.
And remember that all of those meetings that we had during Ledge Days are available for you to watch on OLIS. Um, there's one other thing I wanted to bring up, and that is one other committee that I am on is called the Conduct Committee. And I had a question about that. And I just want people to know that unless there is an issue regarding conduct that comes from the president or the speaker, we never meet. And I believe in the last long session, I think we met twice. And that's all. So someone wanted to know about these meetings, and you can always look for the Conduct Committee on OLIS and see what is happening.
Right. Those folks who don't know, the Conduct Committee it is a committee of equal Republicans, equal Democrats, bicameral, that addresses conduct. I mean,
Right.
it is conduct of members of the legislature as well as staff. So if there's any sort of complaints around harassment, whether it's work harassment, sexual harassment, any of that, breaking of the rules, that goes to the Conduct Committee, and any decisions have to be made by a majority. So it can't generally be partisan because it's 50-50 Democrats and Republicans.
Right.
So it's got to be a slam dunk for somebody to get in trouble with the Conduct Committee. But okay, Senator. Well, always a pleasure speaking with you.
Always a pleasure speaking with you also.
Next time we talk, we'll be staring down the holiday season.
Yes, we will. It's
So
getting close.
It is. It is. Well, Senator, thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. And we'll see you next month.